Welcome to The Consultant.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Tell me who you are. Describe yourselves.
Well, yeah, it's a strange question because who am I outside of the context of the Ion Pack, or who am I in the context of the Ion Pack? But I guess it's one and the same, really. I think it is, at least. I don't even really consider this an alter ego at this point. So my name is Ion One, and
My name is Ion One.
and I describe myself as a goated king.
We are ourselves.
What's the last disagreement you had with one another?
About taking the mask off or not.
And what does that mean for people who don't know anything about this?
We wear these masks and we do this anonymous bit, and we have disagreements about whether or not we're going to continue that.
Well, what this means actually ties into your first question, because it's presented as and started as an alter ego, and it since has become something that is completely not an alter ego, because I think we're very much just our real selves, and I think people who listen to us.
You mean you're your real selves on the podcast?
It's an alter ego only in the image.
Exactly. It started as an alter ego and is now only an alter ego as image and like in name. So I think, and I think that people who listen to us and follow us like us because of our personalities or whatever, right? Which at this point is just us. It isn't an alter ego. So it feels like maybe that this aspect of it is reaching its destination.
And how do you feel about that?
I have complicated feelings. The medium of a podcast being conducted as we have been, which is like, sort of mostly with a focus on ideas rather than our own identity. But I think, Ion One has made some good points about us having matured out of that mode and us wanting to do other things outside of the podcast. I mean, we never wanted to do a fucking podcast in the first place. It just sort of was a thing that we were doing in quarantine. And I think it benefited from the concept of being anonymous, and just because that even went beyond the gimmick in terms of the podcast. I think it put more focus on the guests, and then when it was just us solo, it put more focus on the ideas. It became less of, a personal history or, our own. I mean, it was very personal, but at the same time, very abstract, which I thought it's an interesting sort of tension. But yeah, I mean, we've had, I don't know if they're arguments, but we've had disagreements about like what the next best thing is. Ultimately, I think that we both agree that we like pushing this thing into like different surprising directions. So I'm always about like some sort of progression or newness or novelty. And at one point this, wearing the bullshit on our face was a novelty and no longer is. So, I think that there might be something new on the horizon in terms of the way we present ourselves.
That's probably very exciting to a lot of people.
Yeah. But
not once we take it off. No. You already know what you're going to say.
So, are you single?
Yes.
And what's that look like for you these days?
What does it look like?
Models.
Yeah, models. No, I don't know. It's sick. It's heat. I got plenty of time to be in love. I'm gonna live a long time.
When's the last time you felt love?
I mean, I feel love every day.
That's nice.
Yeah. I also fall in love with people very, very easily, but then I fall out of love in a day. I'm over things. I'm over a relationship in a day. Like
you mean once it ends?
Yeah, in the short term, like if I'm seeing someone briefly, you go on a few dates, I'm over in a day. If it stops, it's fun.
Can you describe the last time where you kind of felt this magical connection with someone?
Oh, constantly. Most days. I'm not even kidding.
So you're just like out there connecting with people?
Yeah. It's my favorite shit.
And what's that look like for you? Paint the scene.
I have a girlfriend that I live with, and we're figuring it out.
And do you find that you connect with people easily? Like, do you share that with Eye on One?
I'm a very like extreme person when it comes to personal relationships. I think that I'm not as casual. Like I definitely don't casually fall in love. So I think we're probably a little bit different in that sense. I do fall in love pretty hard, but they're few and far between. It's only happened a few times, and those times they become my significant other. It's definitely not.
So like casual encounters are not really your thing.
No, I've almost never been involved in any casual sense of the word. Even in friendships, I'm just not a casual person. I never have been.
I've known plenty of people who have tons of casual flings, romantically casual friends, in the sense that it's kind of like quick and not as deep as your closest connections, but somehow they're never actually casual. I feel like I get really into it with someone.
No, you do.
Really
I mean,
fast.
I think there's a good contrast between us there. Is that I think that you have many deep connections with a multitude of people, and I kind of I know I have lots of acquaintances, and then 2 or 3 very close people. You know what I mean? I'm not very close with the
But
group.
what do you think is at the root of that? Is it just about sharing intimate details of yourself with chosen people? Or
I just like people. But
you feel but you're an open person.
Oh yeah.
Which is also why it's hilarious that you wear a mask.
Yeah, right. But it is true because it's more about the ideas, and that's what actually makes you close to someone. It's not like the ego. It's not what you're presenting. It's like something deeper than that. It's the ideas. So when you can disconnect the ideas from the person, it still feels close.
Do you believe in fate? And the concept of it's meant to be.
Definitely in the concept that it's meant to be. I do believe in some kind of fate, but it's more complicated than the classic definition, I guess.
What is it that you believe in? If you had to describe it.
That certain, I'm trying to think of how to describe it without sounding too new agey or something, but certain paths or whatever are run closely parallel to others, and are kind of naturally attracted to each other in some cosmic way that we can't understand.
Like energetically or something.
Yes. Yeah. Which is, not the same as just saying everything's predetermined in this fate way, but it's something similar to fate.
And what about you?
I think I probably used to believe in fate. I think I'm at a point in my life now where I think that life is chaos, and that most of what your life ends up being is a combination of decisions you've made or decisions you didn't make. I think I'm at a state where I think the
consequences of your decisions, and consequences not necessarily in a negative way.
Yeah, it's either your own denial of the fact that you have the ability to make decisions, or it's your own empowerment and the belief that you can kind of design your own life. I think it's I believe that it's personally decided upon by an individual.
Well, I think both of us really believe in instinct, and that's closely related to fate, because we believe in trusting instincts because we understand some type of future that's pretty much already there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There is already a result existing out there somewhere, and we understand which is the way to it. When things don't work for certain reasons, they work for other reasons, and vice versa. So, if it fucks something up, it makes something else possible, and then that might be way better. Or it's better in certain ways and worse in other ways. There's always a give or take.
Yeah.
Yin and yang. I don't know.
Yeah, I like the concept of tearing reality apart, because when you tear something, a window to some other opportunity does open up that you didn't see before. Literally tearing the fabric of the status quo in your life. If you do that and you tear it open, it could be a hole and a void that leads you nowhere, but there is also, the potential for a possible window to something, to some other, universe of what your life feels like.
Well, and what would you say to people who have been afraid of doing that in their own lives? Because, as the consultant, I speak to a lot of great people, many of whom live in a form of fear and operate out of fear in a lot of ways, whether that's from changing their lives from a career perspective, changing their lives like romantically, what advice would you give them?
I mean, it's sort of old school, but like, you know, taking risks or getting outside of your comfort zone is like scientifically proven to be the only way to like grow as a human being. Like it's literally like a requirement to moving to some different level. So, you know, I couldn't advocate for it enough. I mean, it's something I will try to push myself to do more. It's like I'm definitely not the poster boy for taking risks and elevating myself, but I think it's always a goal.
I think. Well, okay, so this is like advice to someone.
Yeah.
My advice to someone would be to look at people's lives who don't take risks, and especially ones who pretend they don't even care. Their lives almost always suck bad. And
You mean just because they're sort of
Yeah,
staying,
they're
plateauing,
yeah.
they're staying in the
people who
same-
pretended to not care, people who are too self-conscious, not even pretend not care, people who are too self-conscious to actually go for things they cared about, or actually try to expand themselves and their minds or whatever in ways that would have been beneficial to them. But maybe they held back because they were self-conscious, or they thought that it made them too vulnerable. They wanted to appear stronger or something. There's a lot of stuff like this. And those people get really stuck and their lives suck.
Do you trust people easily?
Yes, actually one of my New Year's resolutions was to trust people less.
I got
Really?
no
Yeah.
problem with that shit.
I mean, okay. I just am really trusting, but that's like, I'm trusting, but like, I know when someone's like kind of full of shit, but I just trust them because I feel like it's the more elevated place to come from. It's, it will, I think it makes you feel better in life if you're more trusting of people.
I have immense difficulty with trusting people. I essentially don't trust anybody, even myself. So I don't know how my answer fits into this, but it's definitely something I need to work on. Like I do enjoy trusting people, but
So like when someone says something, like you're naturally sort of suspicious of everyone?
I
Or
just assume most people are telling me like half truths and lies the majority of the time, and they are.
No, I definitely don't think that at all.
I just think natural human interaction, like everybody kind of, starts wearing a mask and like sweetens certain things and lessens certain things. And I mean, there's nothing wrong with that inherently. Like I think, I do that, and I think everybody does that to some degree. But I think, just through different experiences, it's put such a weird taste in my mouth. And I'm just taking everything with a grain of salt. Something I think that's maybe different between me and Ion One is that Ion One is probably more open of a person. I'm a pretty closed off person, which is not like I'm not proud of that. I know that about myself.
whose opinions of you matter most to you?
My mom.
And what about you?
Probably both of you guys. It's true. I was tempted to say my family, but it's not true. It's probably both of you.
When you think about your younger self, and it's funny because when I say that, the image of the younger self is so different for so many people. For some people, that's like 5 years ago. For some people, that's like their 14-year-old self. So whatever it is, but you have to say what it is. What would you tell him?
Like advice-wise?
Or just a message from the future? But
I've thought about this so much, but I've never really put it to words because I constantly am like hitting points in my life where I think if only I could make my younger self feel this. I mean, just a handful. Stop caring about small things. Care about trusting yourself and knowing that if you want something or think something or feel something, it's not stupid, and it probably is other people will probably be very interested in it. You're not so special that the things that you think and feel only apply to you. They apply to a lot of people, and other people they could mean something to other people. So don't be self-conscious about them. If you feel some way, other people feel that way because you're not special.
I mean, I guess if it's, let's say I'm talking to my 16-year-old self, I'd probably say, I mean, everything turned out sort of better than I could have imagined, but I think if I could have been told something that would have been comforting, I would have told that version of myself, like you'll get through it and to not give up. And I think I didn't. So you know, who knows if that would have even made a difference if I were to tell him that. But yeah, don't give up, and that you'll get through it.
What drives you?
Impact and satisfaction.
I think about this a lot because I think like what your motivation is. I think people can have impure motivations, and I've definitely had many of those throughout my life.
I fuck with impure motivations.
But I think the thing that I've settled on, which has been a consistent motivation of mine, which is the one I try to like lean towards, is just like happiness or peace or serenity. Something that like feeling like I spent a lot of time when I was a kid feeling very uncomfortable and like upset, unhappy essentially. And I think my main like path or goal in my adult life has just become figuring out a way towards feeling like okay and happy,
And at peace.
at peace with like the state of my life, which because I just like I'm in constant, like many people, like inner turmoil, and I think I'm just trying to figure out how to like quiet and silence all the voices in my head that are, telling me that I'm bad or fucking up or worrying about something, like eliminating stress essentially.
I have another piece of practical advice that I have always wished if I could have made myself younger realize this, it would have been much better for me. Don't plan things out. Really don't plan things out. Don't have an ideal even. You can have things to strive for, but don't have an ideal path to it, right? Like, do whatever comes in your path. Be more spontaneous in that way. That was really, really important. That's like, I try not to have actual regrets, but being too kind of married to some like idealistic trajectory I had for myself was a mistake, and
Yeah.
I wish I could have gone
Yeah.
over that.
Yeah, like don't think you know what's gonna happen.
Yeah,
Just be open.
yeah.
Totally.
Don't worry about. Don't hold yourself back from certain things because you think it'll affect some idealized version of another thing that you have for yourself.
Totally.
Do shit that comes your way.
What advice would you give to single people?
Be not self-conscious enough to be open, because if you're a shy person, if you're someone who gets nervous about this kind of thing, you'll be amazed that you'll get nervous about talking to someone, and and subconsciously you're probably feeling like, I can't talk to this person because it lasts for hours and I'm going to feel uncomfortable for hours. No, the uncomfortable part lasts for like 60 seconds. You'll notice that as soon as you're open with someone and you're confident and you're speaking freely, it makes itself comfortable extremely fast. So that it's just like a little Band-Aid,
Hire the consultant.
Definitely hire the consultant.
That's what you got to do. Thank you for having us, consultant.
Thank you so much for having
I'm
us.
very happy to have had you. Very nice. This is just the first time of many.
And thank
I'm done
you
anytime.
guys for watching.
Big shouts.